All right, folks, welcome to Nino's Corner.tv. I'm joined with Dennis Michael Lynch. You've seen him on the Dennis Michael Lynch Show. You've seen him on Fox, Newsmax. Great guest today. There's no shortage of topics to talk about today, folks. A lot is going on. Protests are kicking up again in Minnesota. It's just the ammunition that Tim Walz needs right on time. Folks, first, get your Noble Gold. If you're over 40 and planning to retire someday, the window to protect what you built may be smaller than you realize. Ask yourself, is your portfolio built for what's coming next? As retirement moves from someday to on the horizon, protecting what you built becomes just as important as growing it. That's where Noble Gold Investments comes in. They help investors reduce the risk by adding gold and silver to their portfolios. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com, noblegoldinvestments.com now, folks. Get started. It's never too late. Gold and silver is shooting through the roof. All right, Dennis, man, thanks for coming on. Like I said, I mean, no shortage of topics, but I guess we can kick it off with what's going on with Tim Walz in Minnesota. Looks like he has the proper ammunition now to move ahead with distractions, right? Like this is the proper distraction he needs. Let's first talk about the ICE agent shooting that woman. Now, I watched 5 different videos on it, right? And I'm going to make this analogy, right? And I just watched a video right now where I'm like, ooh, she hit him. She hit him. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. My complete outlook changed. At first, I thought he pulled out his weapon prematurely and shot her, and different videos showed that view. And I was like, dude, I use this analogy. I used to bounce at a club when I was 19, 20, and there was this one guy, man, we'd get in fights and throw people out, and he kept throwing the women out and breaking their arms, knocking them unconscious, and we finally had enough, and we set him straight right after one of the nights. We said, let's get this guy. We didn't approve of him doing that, and he was giving the clubs lawsuits. So that being said, I thought to myself, this guy acted prematurely. He pulled his gun out, shot her. It looked to me like a cold-blooded deletion, right? And that was really my viewpoint for the most part, although I know, she was a Karen, she was screaming. But then I saw another video where, she hit the guy. So it's pretty crazy on how different angles and different videos can show you different things, and people get emotionally charged. And then you see one video like I did just 5 minutes ago, completely changes my outlook. And now I know it was just cause. Thank you for joining me.
David, thank you for having me on. Your bouncer analogy, I think, is a good one. However, with all due respect, I think you got to point it at the wrong person. So that bouncer that you had at the club, the reason why he probably did what he did is because he's generally an angry person. He's violent. He's got something going on deep within, and he's taking out his anger on everybody else. That is Renee Goode. That is the woman who got shot and killed. Because the one thing that I've learned, David, over the course of time, I got some years on you, the one thing that I've learned that is always consistently consistent is the left is the party of hate, the party of violence, the party of uncontrolled, unhinged behavior. And so here's a woman, you looked at the angle. It didn't take, and you got to remember something. Let me put this on pause for your audience that doesn't know this. I've been in immigration with all the things I've done at Fox and Newsmax, whatever. Immigration is my big thing. Like maybe a left hook is yours, right? That's your
no immigration. I'm here on the border. I'm in El Paso. I was raised here.
There you go. So I mean, I did so much at the border, and over the course of time, with everything that I've seen, I recognize that some of the most calm, reserved people there are Border Patrol agents and ICE agents. They are trained that way. And so when I see that these protesters, because they've never changed either, they've always been violent, they've always been the same. When I see a woman who's parked like that, and you've got those agents coming up to her, and the one agent says, get out of the car, and she doesn't get out of the car, the next time you watch the video, and it doesn't show, this is not the video that shows you. This video would be from the back of the car, driver's side. So you can see her window down, you can see the guy coming in, and you could actually see the gunshot being made. Next time you watch it. She's in the stationary position, as the agent comes up and says, get out of the car, get out of the effing car, she backs up a little bit. You could see the tail lights. And then that's when you see that the agent is in front of the car. She goes, if you or I look up from going in reverse to forward, we look down, we look up, and I see you right in front of me, I hit my brake. Unless I have no value of anybody else's life except for my own, and I hit the gas, I have no regard. She never hit her brake when she came out of the reverse position. She just went straight. She had every intent to run that man over or to get out of there. It didn't matter. And so with that being said, yeah, there's the image right there. Look at that. You never see the brake lights. See, now you got the brake light. She lets go, drives. There was never a hesitation. She had the chance to stop just like you and I would. She never, ever stopped. So this woman is unhinged like the bouncer. And the Border Patrol agents...
Right here. So he's right in front of her right here. Look.
Yeah. And she sees that, David. She sees that
Boom.
from the second... Yeah, if you go back one more time, I don't know if you could go back one more time because I watched this a gazillion times. So go ahead, play it, and then stop there. So just before you now see, there's no brake light because now
he's reaching for his gun
because she's now coming at him and she sees him. There's no way she doesn't see him. She doesn't care. And she drives forward, never hitting the brakes.
I'm not downplaying it. She definitely wins stupid, play stupid games and win stupid prizes. No doubt that was a very disastrous
David,
move.
hit play and watch the taillights. They never illuminate. Boom. Right?
But hold on 1 second. But
Yeah.
let's just look at this real quick. 1 second.
Yeah.
So I'm playing, but look right here. Boom. He pulls out his gun.
Yep.
As she's about to drive off. So why? Okay, just gonna play devil's advocate here.
Yes.
Why not? If I'm the guy, okay,
Yep.
she's obviously a screaming crazy Karen. First instinct he had was to pull his gun out and shoot. Why not move to the side and say, "Get her license plate. We'll go get her later." I mean, she's just a blabbling white mommy Karen screaming her head off, left wing raised lunatic. Right here is very key to me. Right here, look, right here, because he walks up, he stands in front of her car, pulls the gun out before she's even ready to go into gear and go. He had his gun out. He was ready to shoot her. That's a problem for me. Now, I'm on the side of ICE. I don't want people to think this. Like, I'm on the, you should not be trying to infringe or interfere with an investigation or an ICE raid. Absolutely not. But he walked out in front of her car, pulled his gun out, and bam. And that's hard right there.
Let me answer your question. If I'm you're playing prosecutor, I'll play defense attorney.
Okay.
So in this particular case, there's a few things that need to be understood. First and foremost, Kristi Noem yesterday announced that this particular woman here, Mrs. Goode or Miss Goode, she was agitating these guys all day long.
She drove 300 miles, correct, to go do this?
Well, she's from Colorado, and then she's in Minneapolis. I don't know I think she moved to Minneapolis. I'm not sure what her deal is, but regardless of that, she was leading the campaign. There's an eyewitness that says that she was leading the whole protest the whole day, and that she had been giving these agents a very hard time. Secondly, the reason why she's in that position is because the Border Patrol car, which is right of camera, was stuck in the snow. And so ICE agents were going to try to move that car, and she was impeding what they were trying to do, which is against the law. You cannot impede a federal officer in what he's trying to do. So all of that there, she's guilty from the get-go. She is an agitator. She's in a spot she shouldn't be. This isn't like the ICE guys went up into an apartment, David, and mistakenly shot somebody who was an innocent bystander. This is a woman who was doing this purposely all day long and had people filming her, all right?
Yeah.
So that's number one. Number two is very important thing about the ICE agent. That ICE agent who drew his gun, months earlier, he was hit by a car, by a protester, and that car dragged him. So he's got a little bit of, hey, I'm not going to let this happen again. Yes, that was him. Okay, so he's been in this situation before. And look, if you're
and
a
he
cop,
still gets in front of the car.
well, listen,
I mean, come on.
Hey, man, I'm with you. I'm with you.
I wouldn't do that. I'd be like, yeah.
Well,
I don't trust these people.
You got to give them an A for balls, right?
Right.
So these guys know what they're up against at all given times. And if this was a one-off, David, okay. But you have to understand that it's been almost a year now that these guys and gals of ICE have been attacked with projectiles, gone after with cars, spit on. They've been called to the Gestapo by Walz and other major politicians. They know the world is against them for simply doing their job. So I think what happened here, looking at it again as you play it, these guys knew she was a problem. She wasn't getting out of the car. He was trying to stand in front of the car so she wouldn't pull away, not expecting she would be so psychotic.
Is her window down?
Her window's down, so she clearly
pepper spray, bro.
David, if you've never worked with police before,
I have worked.
Okay, then you know. I mean, these guys, man.
I've been arrested by him too.
Listen, man, it's like being. Listen, you're a boxer, right? So it's like Tyson says, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah.
So these guys are there. It's the spur of the moment. Could he step to the side?
I'm just saying. Looking at him, you've ever seen that movie Heat?
Yeah, of course.
𝗬𝗃𝗀. You realize a little bit of 𝗬𝗃𝗀. I'm just saying, but look, I'm not taking her side, dude. I don't want anyone thinking this. I just think he could have handled it a little differently, because now look at the ramifications. Look at the blowback that we're at right now. This is going to get out of hand. This is exactly what Tim Walz needs. This is what the doctor ordered. Protests and riots coming now. And I think I saw something where you said he's going to call the National Guard, the state National Guard now. Is that correct?
He is delusional. So. See, I take the other side of this. I think this is the best thing that could have happened for conservatives, because we're trying to look at fraud, and now we've got this ICE issue, and it's both happening in Minnesota and Minneapolis. We've got if we had 5 cameras in the studio and 2 were at fraud and 3 were in Minnesota, now all 5
right.
Are in
Well,
Minnesota.
The exposing obviously works against them, hands down. No doubt about it. Yeah,
he's done. But here's the stupidity of this man. So under Title 32, the governor can deploy the National Guard for any reason within the confines of what it is. So in other words, a national disaster, riots, etc. And he told Trump yesterday, I am sending a warning. I have initiated and I've gotten my National Guard troops on the ready. These are our National Guard troops. These are the policemen. These are the firemen. These are the waitresses. These are people who work for us. They're Minnesotans. He's such an idiot, because although Title 32 does exist, there's a thing called Title 10, which supersedes
trumps
32.
that, literally.
And that trumps it, all pun intended. So Trump takes that and says, no, you work for me, and he changes it. So the fact that this guy would even do that, David, you're talking about, and I like what you're doing. I like that you're using the devil advocate approach to things.
We got to look at all sides, man. I mean, that's all I'm doing.
Fair is fair. Fair is fair. At the same time is, you would think, because I could tell you're a reasonable guy just by bringing up that look at it. If you're the governor of Minnesota, do you not get on TV and say, look, I'm the first guy who doesn't like having these ICE agents here? I do not like it. I'm not comfortable with it. It goes against what I believe politically. But at the end of the day, they're here by federal law. They have the right to be here. And if we don't want this happening, show up in the midterms, show up in 2028. So this way we could undo these laws. What you don't say is, get the F out of here. Get out of here. We don't need you anymore. Screw you guys. And by the way, I'm going to have the National Guard here if you want to screw around with me. F around, find out. You don't do that.
Well, but that's because he's there to stoke the fire. He's controlled by the powers that be, the Soroses and people of that nature that are controlling this man, telling him what to say, get on stage, throw fuel on the fire. We want civil unrest. We even want a civil war.
Well, the truth be told, David, I talk about this on my program almost daily. I truly believe, and I'm not being sarcastic, I truly believe that there is a mental disorder in liberalism. I just go back.
Maybe you on that.
Yeah, dude. I mean, we could do the comparison right here. You've got Walz and you've got Miss Goode, who's now dead. Think about all the poor decisions that Goode had to make in that single day alone, right? And then you look at her history. She was married to a guy. They had a baby. He dies. She decides she's going to move away and she's going to become a lesbian, right? So she's very confused. She's
wow, I didn't know her history, but I mean.
Well, now you know. So in 2023, she was married to a guy, I think his name was Patrick. He was a comedian. He died. I don't know what he died of. But since then, she's moved and she's got a female lover. She uses those pronouns, you know, whatever they use. And so clearly she's a troubled human being. She's out there in the middle of a work week. She's got a kid in school, and yet she's going to be there protesting. And David, it's not like she's protesting for abortion rights. She's protesting for fraudulent Somalis, MS-13 gang members, and the worst of the worst illegal.
Could she be could she be a paid agitator? I mean, to drive all that way, you got to have money to do so, for gas and fuel and to get there, and food, and to make her voice known, and other people recording her. Could she be a paid agitator?
Listen, I tell you this, when you look, I don't know if she was on the payroll, but regardless, if you look at all those protests that have erupted and you look at the signs that are made, I mean, these are professionally made. They all read the same, and everybody is activating like on the drop of a dime. You know, this isn't grassroots. So obviously, yes, it is indeed paid. But if you go back for a moment to her and look at her, she seriously is not firing on all cylinders. No. Even if you want to say her mother was an illegal, she's got passion towards this. Okay, well, the mistakes you made in that middle of that street, that's mental insanity. What did she think? She was going to drive away and get away scot-free? Then you look at Walz and you look at what he does. And so there's an imbalance in the brain of these liberals. I don't know what does it. I don't know if it's something that happened in school or the media or something at home, but there is a serious problem in this country with the mental disorders. And I think it only got worse for these liberals ever since COVID.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. That was like the line in the sand right there, right? 2020. People that had the Trump derangement syndrome in 2016, it really caught fire.
Yeah,
like a pack of hemorrhoids in 2020 moving forward, right? It's like that. Am I right or wrong? I mean, it's true.
Hemorrhoids of the brain.
Yeah. I mean, that's what happened. But let's switch gears for a second. Obviously, we know the protests and, you know, are going to kick up. They're probably going to get fuel poured on them more so, and maybe turn into riots. George Floyd 2.0. Who knows how this is going to turn out? It's developing. But let's talk about the extraction of Maduro, Venezuela. Looks like Colombia, Cuba, and Mexico could be next. 𝗬𝗂𝗂 is an obvious plant by the cartels. We all know that. And if you know a lot about immigration, you know a lot about Mexico. They don't just you don't just win an election over there. You're placed. You're put in power. What's your views on the Maduro extraction, how it was done? And I think the Senate just voted on Trump 52-47 that he cannot be using U.S. Senate votes 52-47 on resolution to block Trump from further military action without congressional authorization. Trump is expected to veto.
Yeah, you know, oh my goodness, David, you just unleashed a lot of topics here that we could talk about for 9 hours.
Right.
So I'm going to do the easiest one first, which is Mexico. So like I said, I've been doing immigration for 20 years. And if you and I just sat in a room and we said, okay, what's the best way to go about this? We would both come up with the same answer. Let's wipe out the cartels. So I've always asked the question of, why does every president who is running for office before he becomes president, why does every president promise a war on drugs? We're going to get the cartels. And then when they get into office, they seem to forget about it. It's a recurring theme. It goes all the way back to Nixon. And ultimately, I've always gotten the same answer. It's you can't go in to get the cartels, because if you do, that would really be deemed from Mexico as an act of war. You are invading their sovereignty. Now, I guarantee you, if you and I were to go into Mexico and without getting shot and killed in the process, we were to interview 1,000 Mexicans, I bet you we go 999 in terms of people say, please get rid of the cartel, but don't tell them I said it.
100%.
Yeah. And so the reason why we don't do it is because Mexico will deem it as an act of war. And so to me, that is ridiculous. If we have to call war on Mexico, it will be a one-day war, and the people will celebrate in the street just like the Venezuelans did. So I think the other reason being too, David, and you always have to worry about the answer you don't get. And the answer I never get is because there's so many people in the United States that are making millions of dollars every year from the drugs and the wire transfers, the remittances going back, and all the trade that's coming in and out, the illegal trade. So there's a lot of people with a lot of pull that are making a lot of money. That's why that's not happening, and it's a shame and it's disgusting. If Trump won't get it done, then you know that that's how powerful that circle is, that it probably will never be done, as sad as that sounds. And now you take me to Venezuela. I don't think most people understand the intricacies of the Venezuelan situation. And I just interviewed on my podcast, and I'm airing it tomorrow, General Michael Flynn. And we were talking about the nuances of this. And it's multifaceted. Here's how I think it happened in the White House. And I asked this to Flynn. I said, do you think this is how it happened? He said, you may be right on it. I think Trump sat down and he had somebody like Marco Rubio say, Mr. President, you know, Maduro is doing things now with Russia and China and Iran to a point of where I want you to imagine they're allowing those three countries to make, you know, waterfront property looking straight at Florida. It's getting very dangerous. They're bringing in Cuba. Cuba's only 100 miles off the coast. We have got to intervene now or we're in a lot of trouble. Okay, I like that, Marco. Then Pam Bondi says, and, you know, by the way, we've got indictments on them. It's not like we can't keep them. We got them. It's just a matter of going in. Okay. And then somebody else says to him, you know, Mr. President, we could get a lot of oils and natural resources out of this, and we can make a ton of money off it, by the way. Okay. Everything's sizing up. And then somebody, I don't know who it is, raises their hand and says, Mr. President, I don't know if you remember this or not, but you remember Sidney Powell, who defended Michael Flynn when that whole thing was happening with the election? Yeah. Do you remember what Mrs. Powell was standing on, what her whole case was? What was it? That Venezuela are the ones who created the disgusting election fraud machines and software to get rid of people. And now we took it here. All things point back. If we sue him, if we put him into if we arrest him and we put him into a court, we're going to be able to do discovery. And discovery, we'll be able to find out that this election was indeed stolen.
And 72 other countries.
Yes. So if you think about it, think about Trump for a second, David. He loves America. He loves this. He loves that. But the one thing is, man, his ego is huge.
Megalomaniac. Yeah, absolutely.
And it is personalized for him. He wants the world to know that he won 2020. And if this is the way for him to find out that we got it, and oh, by the way, we can make billions on oil, and oh, by the way, we put a knife in some of these bad actors, do it.
Well, let's not forget also when Pete Hegseth summoned the generals, what did Trump say? I am 45, 46, and 47. Nuclear and beyond stratosphere. A very rarefied air right there. That's what he's at. So I think this is operation, you know, this is what I cover on my channel. This is a very extensive, detailed operation. He was 46, 47 nuclear and beyond. Now, that's my opinion on a perspective. I believe he's dealing with a very extensive or small, actually, firewall. That's just why the reason he didn't sign the Insurrection Act on January 6th. Because I believe some generals said, not so fast. Let's just wait this out. Let's play this out. So I do believe that. But now here we are with Cuba and Colombia saying, well, mainly Colombian president saying, come on, come get me. You know, I think the same thing's going to play out. How do you see us? Our fleet's already there. We're in the Caribbean. How do you see us playing that card? Do we just go right ahead and go for Colombia next?
You know,
I mean, we're there.
I know it's a difference of asking me how I would do it and how I think he does it. You know,
right.
I would probably do it a little differently than maybe he thinks in his head. I think Trump is one of those guys that when he gets he's like that snowball. You know, and the more you roll him up, the bigger it gets, the bigger it gets, the bigger it gets. At some point, it gets so big you can't move it anymore. So I like to have my snowball so I could throw it in my hand. I think if Trump were to sit down and wasn't surrounded by yes men, I think he's surrounded by yes men. I think that's his biggest Achilles heel. And you could always tell that because anytime Hegseth or Marco or anybody, Kristi Noem, they all feel obligated to say, we're going into Minnesota, thankfully, because of the leadership of President Trump. They all kiss his ass. And, I'd like to sit down with them and say, hey, listen, I understand you like Greenland, Cuba, and all these other different places. But President, people got to pay their health insurance, and they're getting bills that are 20%, 30%, 40% higher.
Yeah.
And they're going to get their Christmas card debt bill from American Express and Visa come the 27th, 28th. And right now we're almost at a 10% default rate with $1.23 trillion in debt. You are sitting on a house of cards. We need to put all of our attention, all of it, and even if it's the optic, all of our attention on domestic issues, or else we're going to get slaughtered in the midterms. And the last thing you're going to be worrying about is Cuba, because what you're going to be worrying about is your next impeachment, because that's coming day one.
Right. And I believe he knows that. And that's why I believe he's going to sign an executive order of safe and secure elections for a sweeping executive order that in-person paper ballot. I think that's coming. And I think it's going to throw the Democrats into hell. And I think they're going to go nuts with that.
But the problem with that, David, and this is why I'm so angry at the GOP, and this is our next conversation. I'd love to hear your take on this as well. But I see him trying an executive order like that, and immediately the courts are going to put a stay on it, which means it can't be placed in until they review it. And then it's going to get rejected by the courts because it is such a huge executive order. What I would prefer to see happen is that the GOP would really care and say, not only are we going to lose this Make America Great Again movement, but we're going to get wiped out so bad that we may lose 2028. We need to nuke the filibuster, and we need to get the SAVE Act, or now Trump calls it the Save America Act, and start getting voter ID in there. And the reason why it hasn't happened yet is because I truly believe everybody in that GOP, with maybe the exception of one or two people, truly despise him. They smile to him. It's almost like fake sex, right? They're faking it through. Yeah, they're faking it through because they're milking him for popularity, and they know that if they go towards a 𝗫𝗫cy direction or a Taylor Greene sort of direction, they are going to be the victim of a Truth Social post. They're going to lose their support, and they're politically finished. So I think if this is a football game, they are running out the clock, waiting for him to be off the field. And that bothers me because I purposely think it's a coup against him, just one that he doesn't see.
Okay, I agree in a lot of ways with that, but I think that this is a high-level operation, and I've always believed that. I can recognize strategy, and I think that extracting Maduro beginning of the year is key. I think Tina Peters sitting in jail in the Colorado jail is key as well. She's going to be another huge asset to prove the cheat of 2020. I think all this is going to come out sooner than later, and I think it's going to implicate a lot of people in Congress. They're going to be in trouble, and I do think he's going to declare a national emergency and sign the executive order, and I think this is coming. And I would imagine it's going to come probably before summertime to give him enough runway before the midterms. Yeah, the Democrats' plan is to win the midterms and impeach him. Ain't going to happen. I think this is going to happen. Executive order, national emergency, Tina Peters, Maduro, the whole thing. The Democrats will be dismantled by 2026. Moving on. My worry is 2028, TPUSA, the battleground. Who's going to come in there? Who's going to be the wolf in sheep's clothing? That's a whole nother subject I'd love to have you on again about.
Yeah.
I mean, this goes deep.
I see you and I kind of going to the same direction at the midterms, except for we take different paths. The thing about ending the filibuster that people have always worried about, and I'm one of them because I've been in this game for 20 years. So when people have said, oh, we got to kill the filibuster, we got to get things through, I've always said, don't do it. Because if you do it now, they're going to do it later. And they're going to do it for something that's going to be much bigger than we're doing it for now, and we're going to regret it. However, David, we have come to a point in time. I'm 56 years old, 56 and a half. I've never seen things like they are today. You look at the fraud. We didn't even talk about that part of Walz. You look at the fraud that's going on in the United States. You look at the fact that although the border is closed, we still have got ourselves probably 30, 40 million illegal. It's a drip getting rid of them. We're taking in 1.2 million people legally. You got 12 million people coming in here a year on visas. They're overstaying. We're a freaking mess. And so my feeling is do the filibuster now, because if you can get certain things in place and we can improve, make the border even more robust, do whatever we need to do with taxes, start passing things that are MAGA-centric. If we could do it by November, people, the independents, that's really what we need. The independents come in and say, I'm sticking with this, like I did with Reagan. When Reagan, he always, since the day he moved in, going forward, he always had the support of everybody. So we need that sort of that rapport that comes together where the country says, this is so great. Right now, I don't think Trump has a lot to post up of greatness other than that border. And that's yesterday's news, David. We live in a world where you could go to the same Starbucks 10 days in a row, and Starbucks has your latte ready in 30 seconds. That 11th day you go, it takes 3.5 minutes. You hate that Starbucks. I'm never coming back here again.
It's true.
Yeah, right? It's true. So, I look at it as, okay, yeah, the border's secure. Now what's next? So I think that in order for us to really build a solid foundation and get into 2028, like you just said, to build a solid foundation to where conservatism stays in place for the next 3 decades, we can't be writing executive orders all day long. We can't have all these stars align. We just need to be doing the blocking and tackling. So let's do the nuke option now, get the filibuster out of the way, get things in place, and I think people will fall in line.
I think this is going to go military. I think we're going to see more troops on the street. 100%. Watch.
Really?
Yep. I think this is going to be, you're going to see National Guard deployed in most cities, especially the Democratic hellholes like Baltimore, Memphis, Portland, Chicago. I think I believe an insurrection act could even be signed. Just saying. And I think he's going to take extreme moves for executive orders, national emergency executive order for the voting in-person paper ballot. I think Tina Peters' release will be key. I think Maduro's going to be key, and we're going to see them all fall down. And this is the year of action, 2026. This is just kicking off January. This is going to get a lot crazier as we go. It's going to escalate. National emergency, maybe insurrection act signed, and voting executive order. That's my call.
I see. Now, here's where we disagree. I don't think that works in his advantage, but I would be the first person to say I love the idea of National Guards being in every blue city and clean them up. I mean, we saw what's happened in Washington, D.C., and I'm not talking about the Muslim attack. I'm talking about how clean things are and people could go out again. I got a buddy of mine who is part of the press corps, and he comes from New Jersey, so whenever there's a press briefing, he goes. And he says, Dennis, for the first time in years, I'm able to walk from the train station to the White House. He goes, it's a 45-minute walk. He goes, I like to do it. I have a cigar on the way. He says, I used to do that worrying I was going to get stabbed. He goes, now I could plant a rose garden.
Wow.
It would be great. So I like that idea, and I don't think it would hurt us if we did it in the sense that we're never going to get the cities anyway because it's so blue, they don't vote for us. The issue I have with it is that if that is the sole focus, and it's got the way you line up, that's a big focus, David. So if we do it that way, I don't know if our domestic financial issues wind up getting improved. And I think there will be some people who will look at that as being, oh my God, we're going total police state, and they won't like it.
I know they won't, but I think it's the only way to do it. And I think Trump is going to do it that way. And plus, he is going to war with the Federal Reserve anyway. And you see what silver's doing. I mean, I believe we're going to go back to a gold-backed silver dollar. I believe that's coming. I think he's, it was very symbolic to erect a fence around the Treasury. I think this is all coming. I think Trump is an operation, and this is what's playing out. And we're going to see most of it come to fruition this year. We're already seeing it now. And I think we better do another podcast when it hits.
Well, the big thing, Dave, the big thing, I don't misalign with you in the sense of having the National Guard deployed in all those places and cleaning it up. I'd like to see that happen on November 10 when the election's over. Until then, I'd like to see him focus in on doing things like making sure that AI isn't going to take the amount of jobs. See what I think is coming, David?
I have the same, worry about
you have
that.
the same, because I'm a tech, I used to have a technology company. So, and I understand that when you invest in technology, it's hard to, it's almost like you buy a stock today, not because you're going to sell it tomorrow, but in 20 years from now, you want it to bring back a great return. You want it to have tripled itself. When you're investing in AI and technology, you're doing it on the come. And so a lot of people have been investing a lot of money over the last 2 years. And I think those investments are going to start to hit and they're going to snowball. And you're going to see a lot of middle class, middle management people be eviscerated. And when that happens, it's a house of cards.
I agree.
There's going to be no job to get.
I agree with that. I don't see an upside to this at all. All. Not with AI. So, this is the demise of humanity, in my opinion. I don't see an upside to that. I think Trump is kind of bringing in the system, the B system. I mean, I'm like, I can't look at it any other way. I'm sorry.
You see, he's made so there are things that Trump has done that I have been highly disappointed in, and I think it's because sometimes he looks at everything at $1 and cent.
Yeah,
and not everything's $1 and cent, right? So when he's creating deals with Saudi Arabia and Qatar, AI deals, and he's like, hey, we're going to bring in $1 trillion on this and $600 billion on this. Well, first of all, those things are in the future. We're not feeling those right now. And secondly, as far as I'm concerned, you're doing deals with the devil for the sake of being able to grab their money. And what you're doing is you're taking the money today, but you're killing the jobs tomorrow. So I would rather see there being a big plan instead of investing, loosey-goosey in AI. Let's try to bring it down a little. Let's slow it down.
And what about safeguards against AI? I mean, this is just getting so ridiculous. I mean, there was a car that stalled in Austin and built up a Waymo or whatever they're called, the driverless cars. All this, it to me, music, movies, cab, Uber, nobody's going to have a job anymore. So that means we're all automatically going to move to universal basic income. I mean, it's going to go that direction anyway.
And I'll tell you, we talked about mental illness in the beginning of this, and I mean, we kind of do it a little tongue in cheek, although I really do believe the Democrats are all mentally ill. But on a real serious note, when you wake up in the morning, whether it was training for boxing or getting ready for the show or whatever it may be, you have purpose. You have a purpose. And, you started off the show here reading a commercial, right? So, all right, so we're earning money, we're making revenue, whatever, and that's what keeps the clock going. Well, if people lose their jobs and all of a sudden universal income comes in and Elon Musk says, you're never going to want for anything because it's going to be an abundance. Everybody's going to have an abundance. People won't have purpose. You just can't get up every single day and say, oh, I'm just going to walk around the house and at least I've got some food and all right, I'll go play golf. If nobody's working, golf is going to go from being a 5-hour game to a 19-hour game because everybody and their mother is going to be playing it. So without that achievement, without that burn in the belly, we just become robots. And I think that's what's being missed by so many people.
And depression. Can you imagine the depression, the anxiety people will have? This is going to get so bad.
So the only people who benefit from that, as you would know, are the drug companies because all the depression drugs and all those things are all going to go. So it's always the drug companies that are always the scumbags. They're always the one. Look, I had a CBD company for years, did so well. Now all of a sudden, Mitch McConnell, in the middle of the night, in the last CR that just went in November, sneaks in language that there's going to be a hemp ban. It's like, where did this come from? I know where it came from. It came from the pharmaceutical companies because they don't want to have something that's all natural being in there. And I'm not talking about the marijuana side. I'm talking about the non-psychedelic stuff.
Yeah, the CBD.
And it's always ties back to these big corporate entities, and there's nobody who's going to benefit more than the pharmaceutical companies. So when I look at this and I say, all right, where's Trump doing well and where he's not doing well? I like the Maduro thing, and I like whether it's your way of looking at it or, my way of looking at it. I like it. I like it a lot. But I don't think we're focusing enough in on what's happening here in America. And if I could just take us back somewhere that I think we skipped over, I don't know how much time we have, but if we could go back and take a look at the fraud, I always make these little videos, David, on X and Facebook, and sometimes they go mega viral. And I just had one that I think got like 10 million plays when you put it all together. James Woods retweeted me, Flynn, everybody retweeted me. It was a 30-second video, and I could repeat it to you almost verbatim. I said, we see the fraud in Minnesota. It is so bad. It is so clear. There's no denying it. It's going to be the biggest fraud of all time. If this administration does not indict and ultimately convict, but at least indict the MAGA promise, this administration and the rule of law is all built on bullshit. And it's really the truth. We're seeing all we're seeing right now. I mean, there was a hearing yesterday, David. I don't know if you caught it or not the one in D.C. There were the auditors in Minnesota are having they were having a, like a conference. And they said, when we told Walz and Ellison that we were running an audit, they literally went in and created new documents and then backdated old documents. That is fraud at a level that is like, come on, it's like getting caught stealing the money out of the bank. So if we don't get them, people are going to lose all enthusiasm for this administration and honestly for America and what it was built on.
You got to strike when you see the whites in their eyes, my man. We're going to get them. I'm telling you, this is an operation. I'm watching strategy here. A lot of people, I just had Oscar Ramirez on talking about, he's boots on the ground in Tijuana in Mexico. And he talked about how the caravans are still coming. The immigrants are still coming. They're holding down fort in Tijuana and Ciudad Juarez. And they're waiting for 2028 so they could do a Biden 2.0. They're getting ready to flood in again. And they all just, the way they see it here, and I even know people here in El Paso, they're just waiting. They're waiting it out. They're just waiting. So I know how important this is. Trust me, I'm right here in the front lines. And I know that if this isn't wrapped up this year, extreme measures need to be taken. Extreme measures, an executive order, national emergency, troops on the ground, that needs to be done. If not, we're going to lose the 2026 midterms. If they're allowed to do what they're doing, it's over. And I agree with you there. So I guess let's see how this plays out, and I'd love to have you back on the show again. Dennis Michael Lynch, folks. Wow, what an honor. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, David. It was a pleasure, and I'll definitely have you back. I mean, I'll have you on my show, and I'll have you on my show, and I'd love to be back.
Yeah, as this unfolds, let's see what happens. It's going to be entertaining.
All right, brother.
Dennis. God bless you. Thank you so much.
Too.
God bless.
See you later.